Okay, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Python tutorial video. Before I was showing just a lot of different packages of stuff that I found to solve issues, and I thought I'd make a video about it because that's what I like to do. I like to find new stuff, try to explain it to you guys in a way that hopefully you can understand it easily, and hopefully you guys benefit from it. I just like doing it, to be honest. I like learning new things, and hopefully that's the case for you. And real quick, before we get started, I just want to show you in the last 28 days, our views are up 55% and the watch time hours are up 38%. So that's awesome. And I thank you guys for that. If you have subscribed, and if you haven't, feel free to hit that button. If you like learning new programming tips and tutorials and all these little good tidbits of information, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. Anyway, today we're going to go into a little bit of the Python basics. Today we're just going to talk about how to read and write from a text file in Python. And you might be wondering, how often is this useful? I think it's pretty useful, actually, from any programming language to read and write from a file, right? A good example is a config file. If you have stuff that changes often and you don't want to go through the code and change a variable each and every time, you can save that particular thing in a text file and only change it in there, and then it'll just grab it from that text file each time. And you can change it easily without having to go into the code and change it, like an encrypted password, for instance, something that changes quite often. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and talk about how to write to a text file, and then I'll show you how to read that text file. So what I did is in my desktop, let me show you. I created this folder called Python test just for this, and there's nothing in it as I just showed you. What you can do actually in your file system down here, if you click this and you find the file that you want to use, you can actually hit this home and hit copy path after it's highlighted. So now we copied the path of this specific folder. And what I'll do is I'll create a variable called path, and we'll paste her on in there. So Python's not going to like this because it has backslashes. So what you can do is you can actually preface it with an R, and that will just let it ignore this backslashes. This is equivalent to, I think it is an @ symbol in C#. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it is. So we have the path, and now we just need to create the file name. So I do these separate because if I wanted to, you can. There's nothing wrong with this, but I would call it like file.txt. But if we're doing multiple files, I thought, why not just do the path, and then we can have another variable called like file name. So it'll be the same. We got to start it with a backslash because it's going to be Python test / and then the file name. So I'll name this test.txt. So we can make one, and then if we wanted to later, we can make another one by calling it something else, and then keep going. So that's kind of why I did this. I don't know. You could have done the same thing up here. Makes no difference. So I'm going to make another variable called file, and set it equal to, and we're actually going to open the file now. So the first parameter is actually the file path, so it's going to be path plus file name. So it's going to be this. Or no, this plus this appended to the test right here. And then we got to give it some kind of privilege. So it can be read, it can be write, it can be append, and I'll show you those different ones. So let's just do write for now. Then what we can do is we can do file.write, and then whatever we want. So I'm just going to say hello. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put a new line character in there. So each time we write to it, it'll put it on a new line. But we'll see why it doesn't matter since we used write. Anyway, let's go ahead and run this. It ran, go here, and you can see there's a new folder called test.txt. And now we get hello. But notice what happens when I run it again. You might think, or you might expect, there to be 2 hellos in there, right? Because we ran this once, it ran one hello, it wrote that to it, and then we ran it again. So you might be thinking there's 2. Actually, there's just 1. And notice if we change this to hi, let me close this, open that up. It's actually just hi, it didn't keep the hello. That's what write does. Write clears out everything and just writes what you tell it to. Okay, so if we wanted to, we can actually switch it to append, and what that will do is it'll append the new thing that we want to write to the file. Right? It keeps what's there before, and it just appends the new stuff. So let's close this. Unfortunately, you have to close it each and every time when you're doing something like this because it won't refresh. So we ran it once, and you can see it just appended it to the last stuff that was in there, which was the other high. If we did it again, yeah, see, it doesn't refresh. Kind of sucks. It doesn't even ask you. We get 3 highs, so on and so forth. So pretty cool, right? And then one last thing that might be useful if you're writing a program, you can switch this to X. And what this will do is it'll throw an error if this particular file already exists, if this text.txt already exists. And if it doesn't exist, it'll write to it. It'll create a new file and write to it. Let's show you. So you can see that we have an error because this test.txt already exists within here. Now notice if I change it to a new file that doesn't already exist. So test2 doesn't exist, right? It's only test. So it'll create it and write to it. Sweet. Notice if I run it again though, it'll throw the error because test2 now already exists. So that might be useful to you depending on your situation, because you don't want to overwrite something that's already there, right? So let's switch this up to read now. So we're going to read test2, which only has 1 high. And now we can do file.read, and that won't really print out anything, right? Because we didn't print. So let's go ahead and print that out too so we can see what it's reading. 1 high. But if we change this to test, which I think there were 3, let's go ahead and just see. I already closed the file. I think there are 3 highs. Let's make sure. Yep, there are 3 highs. Now if you want, you can read line by line and save all of those lines into a list. So if we wanted to, we can do read lines, and that saves each and every line into a list, just like this. We get high, high, high. If I wanted to, I could do list of lines is equal to file.readlines, not read line, read lines, and print list of lines at the first index. It's just high. And then you can do 1 because there's 3, right? And then 2. So that's kind of neat. You can go ahead and save all of the different lines into a list. So that is the basics of how to read and write to a file. Pretty simple, and yet it is pretty powerful, and Python just makes this so easy to do. It's unreal. I can do all of this reading and saving each individual line into a list and print them out, all right, in 5 lines of code. That's crazy. So hope you could actually do it in less if you didn't do this. You could do it in 4 lines of code. So pretty sweet. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys found this useful and enjoyable. And like I said, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you guys in the next video.